overview from Srimad Bhagavatam. So that time, since Adhikamas, which is also generally called as Purushottam Adhikamas, is going on, I requested Prabhuji that we can have first the overview of 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because I personally felt that 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is one of the very interesting chapters among all the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. And this chapter talks about some of the very important aspects of our Vaishnava philosophy, which has attracted my heart because I have spent a lot of time in studying and trying to understand and trying to explain the technical details that are present in the second canto, third canto, and fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which according to Srila Sukadeva Goswami or according to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Tagore, these three cantos specifically talks about the first three principal topics of Bhagavatam: Sarga, Visarga, and Sthanam. So somehow or other, I have developed special interest to these three chapters, and in addition to these three, teachings of Lord Kapila are also one of the most interesting sections of Bhagavatam to my heart. And this chapter is kind of connecting thread among all these sections of entire Bhagavatam. So it has some direct connection to teachings of Lord Kapila. It has direct connection to the creation section that have been described in the Bhagavatam in the second canto and third canto, and also some kind of direct connection to the Sthanam that has been described in the fifth canto of Bhagavatam, etc. etc. So we'll try to see, and all of you must have heard, must have read, must have studied, must have taught to many others this 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and you must have read the purports line by line written by Srila Prabhupada and previous acharyas also. But I'm not doing something new. I'm just repeating the same things which are there in the purports of Srila Prabhupada, purports of Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan and Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Tagore, and also some of the points from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm trying to add them and present it in a different way than the way usually we discuss or hear this 15th chapter of Bhagavatam. So we would like to keep this very interactive. I would be very happy if you can stop in between. You can ask questions or you want to share something connected to the subject matter which we are discussing. So let us keep it as interactive as possible so that we will not feel bored and we will not feel lost. So hoping that I will have all of your blessings, permission, and prayers. So with that request, I would like to start the discussion of 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita based on whatever I have read, whatever I have heard, and whatever little I have understood. I will try to repeat it to all the esteemed guests present today. So if you permit me, I would like to show my slides which I generally use for my Bhakti Shastri classes, which are a little descriptive, but we would have the information intact. So fine. So here are the slides. Hope you will not be able to see me fully. You may see me little small, but please focus on the slides and request whoever would like to stop me anytime. You can unmute and you can ask question or you can share or whatever. You can make a comment or anything. So now let us begin. So Bhagavad Gita, the Song of Divine. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. This is the translation of Srila Prabhupada for the Sanskrit title, which is generally seen as Purushottam Yoga. The Sanskrit title for this chapter is Purushottam Yoga. So Prabhupada translates as the Yoga of the Supreme Person. So herein, at the very beginning, there is little connection to the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In the 14th chapter, Lord Krishna spoke about how the three modes of material nature, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, bind different living entities in different ways in this material world. How Sattva-guna binds, how Rajoguna binds, and how Tamoguna binds, etc. And eventually, being requested by Arjuna, Lord Krishna reveals the nature are the behavior of a person who had already transcended the influence of the three modes of material nature at the end of the chapter in 3-4 slokas. And after that, in order to answer the queries of Arjuna, Lord Krishna also presents that the means by which one can actually overcome the influence of three modes of material nature. That was Mamchayo Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatitetan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. So the discussion continues on from there. So through this verse, Lord Krishna described that those who perform Avyabhicharini Bhakti unto my lotus feet, they will easily overcome the influence of three modes of material nature. Mam evaya prapadyante mayam yetam tarantite. Like that Lord Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita. So Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. One attains the nature of the transcendence. One attains the nature of Brahman. That is what is indicated in that verse. So here the line continues. It has been described previously, that means in the previous chapter, the last but one verse, that though the jiva is naturally endowed with 8 qualities, so at some other place, I think it is in the 8th chapter, Mad Bhavam, in order to explain the meaning of Mad Bhavam, Antakalecha Mavecha Smaran Mukta Kalevaram Sa Prayate Madbhavam Tadijante Kalevaram. So Madbhavam, when a person, when a jiva gives up their body while remembering the Supreme Lord at the time of death, they will attain my nature. That's what the promise Lord Krishna gives in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the 5th shloka. So in order to explain what do you mean by Madbhavam, there it is explained that Madbhavam indicates that the 8 principal qualities of the absolute truth will be revealed and will be experienced by the Jivatma who attained that Jivan Mukta state or Brahman platform. So the 8 qualities are such as no birth, no death, no hunger, no thirst. So like that, various qualities that are mentioned in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So those 8 qualities will be revealed to that jiva, and that jiva will be endowed with or will fully enriched with those 8 principal qualities of Atma. So that is being mentioned there in the 8th chapter. So it says that being endowed with the 8 qualities and is filled with knowledge and bliss, so he attains the nature of Sachidananda. He associates with the gunas of Prakriti according to his beginningless imprints in the form of karma arranged in that manner by Lord's will. Of course, this was the summary of the previous 14th chapter. In spite of Jiva being endowed with 8 principal qualities of that of the Supreme Absolute Truth, by coming in the association of 3 modes of material nature, that Jiva is bound by karma in this material world. The second last verse, that is 14:26 of the last chapter, stated that by Bhakti Yoga one attains the status of Brahman. Mamchayo Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatitetan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Even though one is bound by the influence of 3 modes of material nature in this material world, still one can be liberated by performing unalloyed devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of God. So actually in the 13th chapter it was mentioned that Purusha Prakriti Stoi Bhungte Prakriti Jangunan Karanam Gunasangasya Sad Asad Yoni Janmashu. Because Jiva, in spite of being transcendental through 3 modes of material nature, with his own personal desires associates with 3 modes. That leads to the bondage of Jiva. But that bondage can be broken by performing Avyabhicharini Bhakti. Then one can overcome. So, but the query comes, so when Lord Krishna mentioned that Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, they will attain the nature of Brahman. They will attain Brahman platform. They will attain to Brahman platform. Then the question comes, so what is this? How does a person attain impersonal Brahman? By performing Bhakti Yoga onto your lotus feet. Who possess a human form. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Bhagavan Sri Krishna, who is speaking the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, having heard this shloka that Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, whether it is Arjuna or any hearer or any reader of Bhagavad Gita will ask this question that, my dear Lord, you are a person and you are telling me to perform Bhakti Yoga. When I perform Bhakti Yoga onto your lotus feet, who are a person, how can I get Brahman platform? How can I get the status of Brahman? It is not at all practical. It is not at all proper. Then Lord Krishna replies, Brahmano hi pratishtaham in the next verse. True, I am in human form. I do accept that I am in my human form, which is eternal, which is Sachidananda, but I am also the basis of Brahman, the supreme shelter of Brahman. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Amrutasya avyayasya cha. I am the shelter of Brahman, which is eternal, which is Sachidananda. I am also the shelter of the eternal liberation, the indestructible liberation. Amrutasya avyayasya cha. So like that, Lord Krishna tells that, don't think that Brahman is something separate from me. So keeping all different processes in mind, for the transcendence, Brahman is the starting point. Some people may want to stay at the stage of Brahman only, such as Jnanis and Yogis. Some people may want to enter into Vaikuntha but with Shantarati. Some people may want to enter into Vaikuntha but in the close proximity of Lord Vishnu, that is Samipya Mukti or Sarupya Mukti, etc. etc. But some want to enter into Goloka and serve the Supreme Lord in intimacy, in Madhurya. So, but for all these things, the starting point is Brahman. If Lord Krishna says that they will come to Goloka Vrindavan, they will attain intimacy with me in Madhurya, that means Lord Krishna is only pointing to the last point. He is excluding all other possibilities on the way. So Lord Krishna does not want to keep it so exclusive. Lord Krishna wants to keep inclusive of all the possible options according to the desire of Jiva. Some may desire Sayujya, some may desire Sarishti, Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, and some may desire Dwaraka Mukti, Dwaraka Vas, Madhura Vas, some may desire Goloka Vas. So Lord Krishna, keeping all the possibilities in mind, says that Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. They will attain transcendence. Some people may stay at Brahman, but others will go ahead as per their desire. So in that way. So that is how Lord indicates here. It says that Brahmano hi pratishtaham amrutasya avyayasya cha. Shashvatasya dharmasya sukasya aikantikasya cha. So I am the basis of Brahman. I am the basis of indestructible liberation. Amrutasya avyayasya. I am the basis of Sanatana Dharma or the Shashvata Dharma, that is Bhakti Yoga. And I am the basis of the bliss that is experienced by the Jiva when the Jiva enters into the transcendence, either in Sayujya or in Vaikuntha or in Dwaraka, Madhura or Goloka. I am the basis of everything. Don't think that they only get Brahman, but for those who want to stay at Brahman, they will get Brahman. For those who want to enter into Vaikuntha, they will get Vaikuntha. For those who want to enter into Dwaraka or Madhura or Goloka, they will get that also. Because I am the basis of Brahman, Vaikuntha and Goloka, all the places that are there in option. So this statement, Brahmano hi pratishtaham and Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate, these two statements acts as a function or sutra for chapter 15. So taking reference from Brahmano hi pratishtaham, I am the basis of Brahman, so Lord Krishna speaks chapter 15. So then the devotee asks, the Arjuna or any other reader of Bhagavad Gita or hearer of Bhagavad Gita might ask these questions. My dear Lord, you said that the devotee, he who practices Avyavicharani Bhakti, surpassing the gunas, sagunan samatittetan, attain the status of Brahman, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. This is what you have stated in the previous chapter. Yes, I do accept that. But my doubt is, what is this material world made of the gunas? And say that sagunan samatittetan. They need to surpass the samsara, which is made up of three material qualities. So I want to know what is this samsara made up of three gunas. Can you please tell me about the samsara? And then, from where did this material world begin? From where did this samsara began? Where is the origin for this material world, which a jiva supposed to surpass? And then, who is that jiva who surpasses samsara by devotion to you? Who is that jiva by performing avyabhicharani bhakti as to surpass this samsara? Who is that jiva and why that jiva has to surpass this samsara? Such kind of question. And then he again takes into consideration that you also spoke of the jiva being qualified by Brahman. Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. You mentioned this also. So now my question is, what is that Brahman? You are telling that the jiva, having performed avyabhicharani bhakti, attained the status of Brahman. Now I want to know what is that Brahman. And in the next verse, you mentioned that Brahmano hi pratishtaham. You are the basis of Brahman, you said. Now I want to know who are you and how you became the basis of Brahman. So these are the 5 possible questions whether Arjuna or the hearer or the reader of Bhagavad Gita might come up with. So what Lord Krishna is doing is anticipating these questions. The Lord now speaks first with the use of a metaphor. The material world made up of gunas is compared to an Ashwatha tree. So the entire chapter 15 is answer to these 5 queries, which can be asked by Arjuna or any other reader or any other student of Bhagavad Gita. The entire chapter 15 will answer these 5 queries, which will reveal the philosophy of Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana to all of us. We generally hear that entire Vedic literatures principally talk about 3 subject matters: Sambandha, Abhidheya and Prayojana. The whole chapter talks about the Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana while answering these 5 queries. Specifically, the last 5 verses exclusively describes the topic of Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. Verse number 16, 17, 18 talks about the Sambandha, the relationship between the absolute truth and Jivatma. And verse number 19 talks about the Abhidheya. And verse number 20 talks about Prayojana. These 5 verses exclusively talk about Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana. The essence of all the Vedic literatures in summary, in nutshell, is mentioned in the last 5 verses of chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, these 5 questions are answered in the 20 verses of the 15th chapter. So now let us start with first verse. So I will recite the verse. All of you can recite along with me, but you don't have to unmute. At your respective places, you can also kindly recite those verses. Text 1. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamulam Adashakam Ashwattam Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yassam Vedasa Vedaved. So, in the first 3 verses, verse number 1, 2, 3, Lord Krishna describes the material world made up of 3 modes of material nature, the samsara made up of 3 modes of material nature, with a metaphor of Ashwatha Vriksha. Using Ashwatha Vriksha as an example, here Lord Krishna describes the samsara, the material world, which is made up of 3 modes of material nature. So starting from this verse onwards, we see so many connections from Srimad Bhagavatam. So many things that are described elaborately in Srimad Bhagavatam, they are like a sutra form. They are touched upon in these shlokas. So now the meaning of this verse, word by word, we'll try to see. Urdhvamulam Adashakam Ashwattam Prahuravayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavik. Prahuravayam. Prahur means somebody spoke of it. Some sages of the past, some rishis of the past, have described this material universe as avyaya ashwatta, ashwattam avyayam, inexhaustible or indestructible ashwatta tree. Why they spoke this universe or this material world as an indestructible ashwatta tree? Because of so many reasons. What are the reasons that are being described one by one? So first of all, the meaning of Urdhva Moolam. What does it mean? Above all planets, we have 14 planetary systems within our material universe. From the top, starting with Satyaloka, then Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Sargaloka, Bhuvarloka, Bhuloka. As you go downward, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. Like that, 14 planetary systems are there. But among the 14 planetary systems, the topmost was Satyaloka, wherein lives the four-headed Brahma, who is the one root of the tree of the material world. Here, Lord Brahma is considered to be the one root of the tree of the material world. If the entire material world consisting of 14 planetary systems as the Ashwatha tree, the root is Satyaloka. If the entire universe, which is consisting of 14 planetary systems, is like compared to a Ashwatha tree, the root of the tree is Satyaloka. If the entire Ashwatha tree is compared to all the variety of living entities that are living in the entire universe, then the root is Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma, who is the one root of the tree of material world and who is composed of Mahatattva in Shuddha Sattva, the first sprout from Prakriti. So this is little technical, kindly understand this. So there are three analogies or three comparisons are given. The third one I have not spoken, but I will speak. If we consider the entire material world to be Ashwatha tree, the root of the tree is Satyaloka, because the entire universe consisting of 14 planetary systems. The Ashwatha tree is located, the root of the Ashwatha tree is located where Satyaloka is located, because Urdhva Moola, the root is situated on the topmost position. And if we consider the samsara to be the combination of all the living entities, that root of the tree, which is the principal element of the entire tree, is Lord Brahma, the main personality. If we consider the entire samsara, the entire universe is made up of 24 material elements. The principal element among the 24 elements, that is Mahatattva, is the root of the tree. So when you see the material universe in relation to 24 elements, the root is Mahatattva. The rest of the tree, consisting of so many branches, sub-branches, twigs and leaves, is made up of Ahankara, mind, intelligence, prana, Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, Panchamahabhutas, and 5 Tanmatras or 5 sense objects. Like that, all the remaining 23 elements. And one more thing, Mahatattva is situated in Shuddha Sattva. Mahatattva is made up of pure goodness. It is situated in Shuddha Sattva. And the remaining 23 elements are situated in 3 modes of material nature. For example, the principal component of Ahankara is Tamoguna. That of intelligence or Buddhi, it is Rajoguna. That of mind is in Sattvaguna. And similarly, all other elements also have one of the 3 gunas. So starting from Ahankara, all the remaining 23 elements are consisting of 3 modes of material nature. Mahatattva is consisting of pure goodness without any contamination of Rajoguna and Tamoguna. And then that Mahatattva is the root of the tree. The remaining tree is made up of 3 modes and root is made up of Shuddha Sattva. And the root is Satyaloka, the remaining tree is the remaining 13 planetary systems. The root is Lord Brahma and the remaining tree is all the other living entities such as the Rishis, the Devatas, the Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Apsaras, and then Asuras, Yakshas, Rakshasas, Bhuta, Preta, Pishashas, human beings, and animals, birds, plants, reptiles, etc. All other living entities are compared to the different branches of the entire tree. Lord Brahma is the root. The living entities who are living in the remaining 13 planetary systems are compared to the branches and sub branches of the entire tree. But the living entities headed by Lord Brahma who are living in Satyaloka is compared to the root of the tree. So in that way, Lord Brahma is situated in Shuddha Sattva. So he is compared to, he is also born along with Mahatattva. So he is there in Satyaloka, he is like the root of the tree. And all other living entities are endowed with three modes of mental nature in the entire universe. They are like the remaining branches of the entire tree. But everything is manifested from Prakriti. Prakriti, the seat of the universe. So like that, the comparison, the explanation of the Urdhva Mula is given. And then Adashakam, the root is situated on the top of the tree. Here this is an inverted tree on the top position, and down below we have the main trunk, then branches, sub branches, twigs, leaves, etc. etc. They are all described in this verse and the next verse. The branches of the tree, which are actually in three modes. Okay, so there is something in chart box. Could you please explain the relationship between Brahma and Mahatattva? I am confused. Okay. I have given total four analogies. If the Ashwatha Vriksha is compared to 14 planetary systems, then Satyaloka, which is on the top, which is located on the top of the universe, that is compared to the root of the tree. And if we compare Ashwatha tree with all the variety of living entities, then Lord Brahma is situated in the Satyaloka. He is located at the position of the root, and all other living entities are situated in the different branches and sub branches, etc. And if we compare the entire universe in relation to 24 material elements, the root of the tree is Mahatattva, which is in Shuddha Sattva, and the rest of the tree, the trunk, branches, and all other things are remaining 23 material elements, which are in three modes. Sattva Guna, mind is in Sattva Guna, intelligence in Rajoguna, Ahankara is in Tamoguna. The first 5 Panchamahabhutas and 5 Tanmatras are also in Tamoguna. The Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas and 5 Pranas are 10 Pranas are in Rajoguna. And the various precedent deities of all these things, they are Sattva. Like that, the descriptions are there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then finally, if you see, the entire universe is made up of three modes of material nature. The root is in pure goodness. The rest of the tree is in three modes. So now the root itself is indicating of Satyaloka, the four-headed Brahma, and Mahatattva and Shuddha Sattva. So in the Bhagavatam it talks about when Mahavishnu glances upon Prakriti. Through that glance, when Mahavishnu injected Kala, Karma, Swabhava along with Jiva into Prakriti, the Prakriti becomes agitated. From that agitation, the first sprout, the Prakriti is like the seed. The Lord's glance is like sowing a seed. When we sow a seed, there comes a sprout at the very beginning. That sprout eventually transforms itself into the root of the tree. That sprout is compared to the manifestation of pure goodness. That is nothing but Mahatattva, which eventually transforms itself into the root of the tree. So at the very time the sprout appeared from the seed of the tree, or from the Pradhana, or from Prakriti, when Mahatattva appeared, Lord Brahma, as the principal living entity of the entire material world, also appeared. And Lord Brahma is endowed with pure goodness. He is a personality made up of Shuddha Sattva. So that is being indicated. So Mahatattva is equivalent to Lord Brahma. It is equivalent to who stays in Satyaloka, and consisting of Shuddha Sattva, the pure goodness, situated in Satyaloka at the tree of the material world. So this is being indicated here in this verse. Okay. And in one way, Lord Brahma as the Gunavatara is the present deity of Mahatattva. The 24 elements have their present deities. Just like the mind has the deity as its deity, Lord Moon God, Chandra, or Soma. Soma is the deity of mind. And Lord Shiva is the deity of Ahankara. Lord Brahma as a Jiva, as a living entity, is the deity of intelligence or Buddhi. But the same Lord Brahma as Gunavatara, who actually represents the potency of Lord Vishnu, is the present deity of Mahatattva. Many times we read in Srimad Bhagavatam, the present deity of Mahatattva or Chitta is Lord Vishnu. But that responsibility is endowed to Lord Brahma, who acts as Gunavatara when he acts as the present deity of Chitta or Chetana or Mahatattva. Okay, there is another query in the chat box. The root of a mango tree will give mango fruits. Then why the root of this tree, whose roots are in goodness, is producing fruits of tamoguna and rajoguna? So, my dear sir, the root of mango tree will give a mango fruit. If you have tasted the mango skin or the mango's seed, they are very they are not exactly pungent, they are a kind of astringent, they are different taste, we cannot taste them only. The fruit may be sweet when it is ripened, but when it is raw, it is very sour. And even after ripening, inside the seed, whatever portion is there, that is very difficult to be eaten. So only the juicy portion is sweet, not the every other portion. So the mango also has different tastes, which are like other modes. So don't worry, they are always there. So now let us go ahead. So this is also another interesting thing. So when the root is like Lord Brahma, and it is like Satyaloka, it is like Shuddha Sattva, it is like Mahatattva, and the branches are other living entities, other 13 planets who are living in the other 13 planetary systems, who are made up of the remaining 23 elements, and who consists of 3 modes of material nature in various combinations. The branches of the tree, which are in 3 modes, are situated below the root of the tree, composed of Devatas, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Asuras, Rakshasas, Bhutas, Pretas, human beings, cows, horses, and such beasts, birds, insects, worms, moths, and immobile creatures at the bottom. In the realm of Svargaloka, some of these people, such as the Devatas, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, they live in Svargaloka, and some live in Bhuvarloka, such as Apsaras, Rakshasas, Bhuta, Preta, Pishacha, they are live in the Bhuvarloka, and human beings, animals, birds and beasts and other creatures, they all live in the lower planet, that is known as Bhuloka. So all the remaining living entities endowed with 3 different modes, whose bodies are made up of 23 elements and also 24th element, they are situated in the remaining in the 3 planetary systems known as Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka and Svargaloka. Here the Svargaloka are the immediate branches starting from the root, and as you go downward little below, then comes the Bhuvarloka branches. As you go downward, there comes the Bhuloka branches. The Bhuloka also consists of lower 7 planets like Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala, etc. They are also part of Bhuloka. And the main trunk of the tree, which is directly connected to the roots, that is equivalent to Maharloka, Janloka and Tapaloka. There are no branches. The Maharloka, Janloka, Tapaloka, is they are indicating the main trunk portion. The first set of branches are indicating to Sargaloka. Then second set of branches are indicating to Bhuvarloka. Then the lower branches are indicating to Bhuloka and the lower 7 planetary systems. And the respective living entities are situated in all these places. So this is how the entire Ashwatha tree has been compared to the 14 planetary systems and also all the variety of living entities that are there in the material world, who are endowed with different modes. The people who are in the Svargaloka, they are primarily in the mode of goodness. The people who are in the Bhuloka, they are primarily in the mode of passion. And people who are in the mode of in the Bhuvarloka, some of them are in the mode of goodness, some of them are in the mode of ignorance. And people below Bhuloka or within Bhuloka, which are in the lower 7 lower planets, they are in the mode of ignorance. Like the 3 different modes are situated at different places. So that is being indicated in this verse. So this is the meaning of Urdhva Moolam, that is Satyaloka or Lord Brahma, Adashaka, that is indicative of all the other living entities who are residing in Svargaloka, Bhuvarloka and Bhuloka. This Ashwatha tree is considered to be the best because it lets one fulfill one's goals. That is, this tree will help us attain all the fruits that one may want to get. The fruits are Dharmartha Kama Moksha. Some people are only interested in Dharma. Some people are only interested in Artha and Kama. Some people are only interested in attaining Moksha. So all these different people are situated at different places. So this tree or this material world can award us all these 4 kinds of fruits as per our desire. Some people may anticipate only the fruits of Dharma, some people may anticipate the fruits of Artha, and some Kama, some Moksha. And this tree has the capacity to award us all the variety of fruits according to our desire. So that's why this tree is called as one of the best trees. The material world is considered to be the best place for the living entities to attain Dharmartha Kama Moksha, the 4 Purushartha. That's why it is said that Ashwattham Prahuravayam. It is said to be the indestructible tree because these fruits are keep coming. Nothing unlike the mango tree which only gives the fruits in season. During the summer, the rest of we don't have mango fruits. But this tree can give fruits throughout the year, throughout the existence, and it appears to be eternal. But from the point of view of devotees and bhakti, Ashwatha means that which will not last till tomorrow, that will not exist eternally. Because even the material world also has a limited time period. At one point of time it was created, at some other point of time it will be annihilated. A means not, Swa means tomorrow, which does not exist till tomorrow. That's why it is called Ashwa. This material world is temporary. It is subjected to annihilation at a predetermined time. There is annihilation at the end of the day of Lord Brahma, and there is annihilation at the end of Brahma's lifetime. And even from the individual point of view, there is destruction from our bodily point of view after the prescribed time of the body is over. For Kali Yuga, the maximum time period is 100 years. For Dwapara Yuga is 1000 years, Treta Yuga 10,000 years, and for Satya Yuga it may be 1 lakh years. But there is a stipulated time. We are all bound to, our identities are bound to perish. That's why Lord Krishna compares this material world or our existence in this material world with a Ashwatha tree. Because in Sanskrit, Ashwa means A and Shwa. Shwa means tomorrow. A means which is not there till tomorrow. So because of this reason, Lord Krishna compares the entire material world with a Ashwatha tree. That which will not last till tomorrow, Ashwatha, which does not exist tomorrow. But for non-devotees, it appears to be indestructible, avayam, since the fruits seems to be eternal. The Dharmartha Kama Moksha, they appears to be, the attainment of these fruits appears to be very everlasting or eternal. That's why the non-devotees consider this universe to be eternal and this tree to be very pleasing and very wonderful. But for devotees, this tree is destructible, which will not last till tomorrow. It is only temporary manifestation. So this is how the way they look at it, this tree is being described. So this is the meaning of Ashwattham Prahur Avayam. And then Lord Krishna, it gets into Chandamsi Yasya Parnani. So Chandamsi means the Vedic literature. Parnani means the leaves. The leaves of this tree has so many branches which are compared to all the variety of living entities compared to all the lower 13 planetary systems, and those branches will have so many leaves. The tree leaves are considered to be the teachings of Vedic literature or the Vedas, which expound karma. The Vedas talk about karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti. All the four teachings are taught in the Vedas, but karma is the principal topic that is being taught in the Vedas. Our people speak about the Vedas only in terms of the scriptures of Karma Kanda. They describe the Vedas to be the only Karma Kanda scriptures. They are only talking about Karma Kanda rituals. Like that, many people come up about the understanding of the Vedas. So the leaves, Parnani, expand the bondage of the material world, because for our normal understanding from our school studies, we understand that the tree leaves under the sunlight, they perform the activity known as photosynthesis, because of which the tree continues to grow further and further. So similarly, from the point of view of Vedic literature, the Karmakanda sections of the Vedas which inspire people to perform the Karmakanda rituals, which actually put them in perpetual bondage, because the ultimate goal of Karmakanda rituals is to live happily here while living in this Bhuloka, and eventually go to Swargaloka and experience more and more happiness. Whether staying in this Bhuloka or going to Swargaloka, both the things are actually binding the living entity. So they actually expand the bondage in the material world for the living entities. That's why the leaves of the tree are compared to the Vedic literature. And from the normal understanding of a tree, when a tree has green leaves, the tree looks very attractive. In the rainy season, starting from the month of July and August, especially I'm talking from the point of view of India, all the tree becomes greenery. In the summer, all the leaves become dry and they fall apart. The tree looks lifeless. But when there are first rains, the entire atmosphere becomes greenery. The tree becomes green, filled with lot of green leaves. Then the tree looks very attractive. We can actually look at the trees for hours together. This is a nice panoramic scene if we happen to go to Govardhan Eco Village in the month of August or September. The entire atmosphere surrounding with small mountains looks very beautiful, in between having so many waterfalls, small streams, because the entire area is filled with green trees. So in relation to all of us, the people in general, especially the grahasthas, they become happy. Their life becomes attractive. Their life becomes pleasurable when they perform festivals in their home, when they perform various samskaras in relation to their family members in their home, in the midst of all the friends and relatives, wherein they can exchange their emotions with their intimate friends and relatives. That time, the grahasthas actually feel like continuing to live for more time, because they think that this life is filled with a lot of happiness. All the samskaras, such as when they come to know that their children's marriage is settled, so from there on, all the festivities start. So there is Nichitartha or engagement, then there is marriage, and then eventually there will be so many other festivals when they come to know that they are going to give birth to a new child. So many samskaras that have been described in the Vedic literature: the Garbhadana samskara, Simastantonena samskara, Jatakarma samskara, Namakarana samskara, Shikamundana samskara, Annaprasana samskara, and like that, so many samskaras, Upanana samskara, like that, from the time of their children's marriage is settled, and from there on, the birth of grandchildren, their name giving ceremony, and so many other things, like the householders are filled with so much plan making. Their life is full of event after event, event after event. When they celebrate all these events in the midst of their friends and relatives, their life seems to be very wonderful, very blissful. And the descriptions of all these samskaras, how they should be performed, where they should be performed, when they should be performed, it is mentioned in the Vedic literature. Just like a tree is nourished and grows wonderfully and looks very beautiful when the leaves are there abundantly and very freshly and in a green color. Similarly, in the life of a Grihastha, in the life of a person of this world, when there are so many festivals are going on one after the other, the life looks very wonderful. The life seems to be very beautiful. The life seems to be very attractive, and they want to continue on like that. Thus, a person is bound in this material world. There is nothing wrong in performing all these festivals. The nature of these descriptions in the Vedic literature, they certainly have the binding potency. So that is being hinted here in these verses. So here it says that the statements of the Shruti which propound performance of kama karmas, performance of various rituals in relation to various samskaras and in relation to fulfillment of various desires, are called the leaves of the tree of samsara, because the verses, the Vedic verses, increase the very cause of samsara. They increase the vasanas, they increase the impressions, just as the leaves of a tree nourish the tree. When there are more leaves which are actually in green color, they actually continue to do the photosynthesis action, and which will increase the nourishment, which will increase the growth of the tree. Similarly, when the people perform all the Vedic rituals that are described in the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, their life seems to be very beautiful. But by the way, in a subtle way, that actually binds a person in this material world. A tree grows and flourishes by the leaves. Similarly, the performance of Vedic rituals that are described in the Vedic literature nourishes and moves on the life of the people of this material world. But finally, Lord Krishna says, Yasam Vedasa Vetavid. He alone who understands this Ashwatha tree as described above knows the Vedas. They actually know the meaning of the Vedas. But for what purpose Lord Krishna speaking about this verse here in Bhagavad Gita, and what is the purpose in understanding of this universe with a metaphor of Ashwatha tree? The Vedas describe this world as a tree with the intention of showing that it should be cut down. The tree, the entire samsara is explained in relation to a tree, not to increase the tree's tenure, but with an intention to cut down the tree. One who knows how to cut down this tree is called a knower of the meaning of the Vedas. Not a person, he who knows how to nourish this tree, how to increase the tenure of this tree is not the knower of the tree. He who understands the nature of this tree, how this tree is continues to increase, continues to nourish, continues to stay on in this material world. But he who understands how to cut down this tree is actually the true knower of the essence of the Vedas, true knower of the meaning of the Vedas. So this is the meaning of the tree of Ashwatha, which is being described in this first verse of the 15th chapter. So herein we can see the upside down tree. So this tree is being described in this verse, wherein the roots are upward, the branches are going downward. The main trunk of the tree is like, the root is like Satyaloka, the main trunk is like Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and the branches which are in the upper portion, they are like Svargaloka. Then the branches which are in the middle, they are like Bhuvarloka. Then the branches which are below, they are like Bhuloka and the lower 7 planets. So that is how the comparison is given. And simultaneously, when you are talking about the 14 lokas, it is also indicated about the living entities who are living in those 14 lokas. Like the people of Satyaloka headed by Brahma are like the root. The people of Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka are in the trunk. The people of Sargaloka are in the upper branches. The people of Bhuvarloka are in the middle branches. The people of Bhuloka are in the lower branches. That is indicated. And finally, just like Lord Brahma is made up of Shuddha Sattva, the people in the remaining branches, they are made up of Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna. And the people in the upper branches are in Sattva Guna, in the middle branches are in Rajo Guna, and the lower branches are in Tamo Guna. Like that, we can understand. So in the chart box, there is a query. So here it says that Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Veda, that is Mahabharata. Bhagavatam is also considered part of the Vedic literature. So basically, how to get rid of the tree is hidden in something which nourishes the tree. Sorry. Bhagavad Gita is a part of the fifth Vedas, that is Mahabharata. Bhagavatam is also considered part of the Vedic literature. So basically, how to get rid of the tree is hidden in something which nourishes the tree. So of course, the same Vedic literature teaches us how to get rid of this tree. That is true. So in one sense, we may think that only 4 Vedas are the Vedic literature. Not like that. All Vedic literature, such as the 4 Vedas, 4 Upavedas, 6 Vedangas, and the 18 major Puranas, 18 minor Puranas, and Vedanta Sutra, everything is part of Vedic literature, which also include the Itihasas such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. etc. Everything is part of Vedic literature only. And everywhere the process of getting rid of this material tree is also described, but it is evidently described in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the glory of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So at this point of time, any other devotee has any other query in relation to the first 2 verse of 15th chapter?
Hare Krishna. Pavaneshwar Prabhu, there are some questions in the chat.
So, we have already discussed all the questions.
Yeah, this, I think one just popped up now. No. Okay.
This we also discussed.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry if the discussion appears to be a little technical, but here I am trying to present the teachings of Bhagavatam, seeing them in the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Because many times we hear that Srimad Bhagavatam is explanation of the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Like Bhagavad Gita is like law book and Bhagavatam is like law journal. This is what is being taught in our 6 session course in the beginning days of our journey in Bhakti, journey in ISKCON. So if you see from that point of view also, one verse of Bhagavad Gita has so much in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is explained in terms of various chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam. So thus we can actually continue on describing one verse of Bhagavad Gita for days together. So after the tree has been described, talking about its root, its trunk, its branches, and the leaves of the tree, and some more details of the same tree are presented in the second verse. The Lord continues the description of the tree. So now let us recite together the second verse. Adascha urdhvam prasutastasya shaka guna pravruddha vishaya pravala adascha mulani anusantatani karmanubandhini manushaloke. So herein the first 2 lines talks about the other parts of the tree, the special nature of the other parts of the tree, and the second 2 lines talks about the specific nature of Bharatavarsha, the specific nature of the important place in the entire Bhuloka. So that is called Manushaloka or the Bharatavarsha, to be more precise. So that we will discuss. So what it means. So first the meaning of Adascha Urdhvam Prasutas Tasya Shaka. Tasya Shaka means the branches of that tree are situated above or below, above and below. Adascha Urdhvam, Urdhvam is indicated above. There are some branches are situated in the upper portion of the tree and some branches are situated in the lower portion of the tree. And this tree, or specifically the branches of this tree, are nourished by Guna Pravruddha. The 3 modes of material nature actually nourish a tree. Just like normally a tree is nourished by the water, but this tree is nourished, the tree of samsara is nourished by 3 modes of material nature. The branches of this tree spread down in the form of animals, plants, birds, bees, human beings in the lower planetary systems, and upwards in the form of birth in the devatas, Apsaras, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, and other elevated beings such as the sages, the residents of Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, etc. Adascha urdhvam prasuta sasyaka. There are some branches situated in the upper portion of the tree, some branches in the lower portion of the tree. The upper portion is meant for devatas and rishis. The lower portion is meant for all the variety of human beings and other lower species, and also for asuras, yakshas, rakshasas, etc. And these branches increase and increase by the watering process in the modes of actions of the three gunas, guna pravruddha. When we perform various activities in three different modes, our continued journey in the material world will increase. We go from one branch to other branch as we perform activities in different modes. So that is indicated in the 14th chapter. Urdhvam gacchanti sattvatsa. When we perform activities in the mode of goodness, we will go to the branches which are in the mode of goodness in the upper portion of the tree. Madhye tishtanti rajasa. When we perform activities in the mode of passion, we remain in the middle level branches, that is the branches in Bhuloka. And adho gacchanti tamasa. Jaganna gunavrittisya ajo gacchanti tamasa. When we perform activities in the mode of ignorance, we go to lower planets such as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatal, Rasatal, Patal, and also the place where Yakshas, Rakshasas, Bhuta, Preta, Pishachas are residing. We will enter into those lower abodes which are in the mode of ignorance. And also, sometimes it is said that Adhogachan Tamasa indicates birth in the species of animals, plants, birds, trees, etc. That is also okay. So like that, we can see. So that the activities that are performed in three modes of material nature actually nourish our journey from one branch to other branch to other branch to other branch. We continue to progress from one branch to other branch, from one species to other species, as long as we perform various activities in three modes of material nature. Just like a tree is nourished when we pour water at the root. Similarly, when we perform activities in three modes, our journey continues on in this material world. And why we perform activities in three modes? Why we want to continue our journey in this material world, moving from one branch to other branch? Because this tree has some special things. What are they? The small twigs on the branches are the sense objects such as sound, Vishaya Pravala. The tree has the root, which is Satyaloka. The tree has a trunk, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka. The tree has branches, Swargaloka, Bhuvarloka, and Bhurloka. The branches will have sub-branches. The sub-branches will have twigs. The twigs finally will have the shoots, which eventually transforms into the birds, flowers, and fruits. These shoots, the tender upper portion of the small twigs, wherein the birds will come, which eventually transform into leaves, which eventually transform into flowers, and eventually transform into fruits. When a tree has these things, the tree becomes happy. The tree becomes blissful. And we also become happy with the tree when the tree starts giving flowers and fruits. And we also call the tree to be very wonderful tree, very pious tree, very good tree. If a tree is neither giving fruits nor giving flowers, we don't care for the tree. Whichever tree gives fruits and flowers, actually we care for the tree very enthusiastically. We take care of it because we are getting something out of the tree. So just like we become happy when we see some fruits and flowers in the tree, similarly the tree becomes happy when it started giving some fruits and flowers. So the comparison is given. The fruits and flowers or the tender shoots are like sense objects. As long as we experience the happiness of the five sense objects, five tanmatras such as Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandha. As long as a living entity experiencing these five things at various levels of various proportion, A jiva remains happy and continues to live in this material world and desires to continue living in this material world. Our desire to continue on our life, our desire to live in this life, in this material world, again life after life, will exist only as long as we experience these five tanmatras. Whatever enjoyment a person or a living entity or any jiva, any other person, any other jiva in this material world experience is nothing but the combination of these five things. Sometimes one of the five may be more, sometimes one of the five may be less, but all the enjoyment that experience in this material world is nothing but the combination of these five things. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Whatever we get through our five Jnanendriyas are the causes of our enjoyment, are the causes of our bondage, are the causes of our living in this material world for rest of eternity. A tree becomes attractive, a tree itself becomes blissful, and tree is cared by people only when it gives fruits and flowers, the tender shoots. The tender shoots are sense objects, the objects of one's enjoyment, the objects of one's nourishment, the objects of one's sustenance, the objects of one's bondage, one's continued existence in this material world. So, Guna Pravruddha Vishaya Pravala. The tree is nourished by the activities that are performed in three modes of material nature. For what purpose? In order to experience the enjoyment that is offered by these five tanmatras, by the flowers and fruits of the tree. But though throughout the tree there are so many branches, every branch has so many sub branches, every sub branch has so many twigs, every twig has so many flowers and so many fruits. But all these flowers and fruits are made up of three modes of material nature. Because they are in three modes, they have the nature of binding us in this material world. But there is something which is in very pure goodness, which is actually transcendental, that is actually located above the root of the tree. But at the base of the tree, unknown to all people, is some great treasure. That great treasure is bereft of the nature or the qualities of the three modes. It is beyond three modes. That is not known to anybody. That is located at the very base of the tree. But in our normal discussion, it is situated above the root of the tree. It is situated above Satyaloka, above the abode of Lord Brahma. Then what? So these two lines, the first two lines, Adasya Urdhanta Prastatasya Guna Pravruddha Vishaya Pravala, talks about the remaining details of the entire tree. And now we are exclusively focusing on one set of branches of the tree, the place where we are living. The entire universe, the entire 14 branch system is compared to the entire tree. Now let us come to the place where we are living. Now Lord Krishna speaking exclusively to human beings. Manushya Loka. The Manushya Loka are the branches which are located at the location of the Manushya Loka have some special characteristics, the special qualities. What are the special qualities of this Manushya Loka? The special quality of this Manushya Loka is it gives secondary roots. Cha Mulani. Cha means and. The second, there is a principal primary root at the location of Satyaloka. But in Manushya Loka, the branches which are in Manushya Loka will give birth to secondary roots. What are the secondary roots? The secondary roots from the branches are which are in the Manushya Loka are the cause of continued action. Spread out everywhere below Brahmaloka in the human planet. The branches that are located in Bhuvaloka, especially exclusively in Bharatavarsha, these branches have special nature. That means basically the people who are living in Bhuloka or in Bharatavarsha, when they perform activities in three modes, those activities they will take them to various places in the entire universe. The activities in the mode of goodness will take them to upper branches of the tree. The activity in the mode of passion takes them in the same level branches. the activities in the mode of ignorance will take them to lower branches. This is the special feature of the branches in the Bharatavarsha, that is Manushya Loke. They will give to secondary roots. Because it is described as the secondary roots here, this tree can be seen now as a banyan tree. Because Ashwatha tree will not have secondary roots. Only a banyan tree will have secondary roots. Because of this reason, from the very beginning, Prabhupada translates Ashwatha tree to be banyan tree. But technically, Ashwatha tree means it is a peepal tree. Banyan tree is actually a Vatavriksha. It is called as Vatavriksha in Sanskrit. So whatever activities a person performs in Bharatavarsha, those activities will take them to various planets, all the way up to Brahmaloka above, and all the way up to Patala Loka and Narakaloka below. Or they can remain in Bharatavarsha or Bhumandala only, in the middle level. These secondary roots spreading down and up are the impressions caused by the attachment and repulsion, karma anubandhini, born from the enjoyment of various sense objects. The previous line mentioned that Vishaya Pravala. So while describing the tree, the tender shoots or the flowers or fruits are compared to the 5 sense objects. So when the living entity desire to enjoy these tender shoots, sometimes they want to enjoy the flowers in the branches in the middle level. Sometimes they may want to enjoy the flowers and fruits which are there in the upper branches, thinking that in Swarga there is better enjoyment. The fruits in Swarga branches they are very good, so they will go there and enjoy those fruits and flowers. And sometimes they may think that the fruits and flowers which are there in the lower branches, they are very beautiful, are very tasty. They come down to lower branches and they enjoy those fruits. Thus, the activities a jiva performs in Bharatavarsha will bind them. That's why it is called Karmanubandhini Manushya Loke. Whatever karma a jiva performs in Manushya Loka will bind that jiva by taking that jiva into upper planets, in the middle planets, in the lower planets, and making them enjoy the fruits of those respective branches. Because they are the causes of man's tendency to act according to dharma and adharma. Because the activities in Manushya Loka are generally categorized as dharmic activities or adharmic activities. The dharmic activities take them to Swarga, adharmic activities take them to lower planets, and mixture will keep them in the Manushya Loka only. So thus, their bondage will continue or their bondage will increase continuously. The main root, which is the cause of the universe, is four-headed Brahma. And the secondary roots, which cause actions and particular bodies, are the various impressions that all of us have in Manushya Loka. These are compared to the tangled roots emanating from the banyan tree. They give rise to the bondage of karma. Just like a banyan tree, from the branches, the second roots come down. When they enter into the surface of the earth, from there another tree starts. And from the tree again some branches will give secondary roots. They come down to earth, they will continue on like that. That's why it is called as karma anubandhini. After enjoying the results of one's actions in one life, those actions become stimulus for actions in another human birth. Because of which one's existence will continue on in this material world. If the tree is only Ashwatha tree, then Jiva comes to this material world, takes birth in one of the branches and dies one day and goes back to spiritual world. But in Manushya Loka, the Ashwatha tree becomes banyan tree and it starts giving secondary roots. And every secondary root has a capacity to become another banyan tree. And that banyan tree will have branches at different levels. And the branches which are in the Manushya Loka will have the capacity to give another secondary roots. They will give birth to another set of tree. Like that, one's journey in this material world will continue on as if everlasting, as if eternal. So this is the nature of secondary roots of this banyan tree. I mean, I just would like to share one personal experience in this context. So I come from the previously known as Andhra Pradesh, now it is known as Telangana, from a district known as Mahabubnagar. So previously this district was known as Palamuru. The headquarters of this district was actually known as previously Palamuru. Later on, it is renamed as Mahabubnagar, because there was a banyan tree which spreads to a distance of 4 acres, and the archaeology department and tourism department, they have found that this tree is 800 years old tree, and the tree spread to a distance of 4 acres. It's a huge area, 4 acres, and this is a favorite tourism spot, visiting place in that town known as Mahabubnagar. Previously, because of this tree, it was known as Palamuru. Actually, it comes from the tree only. In Telugu, we call this banyan tree as Marri. And when the secondary roots, they are called as Pilla. Pilla means the children of that Marri, which will lead to another particular birth of another tree. So in general, Pilla means the child, the girl child is called Pilla also in Telugu. So it is called as Pilla Marri. That banyan tree which has so many secondary roots which are transformed into another trees, because of which it expanded to a distance of 4 acres, to area of 4 acres. So it was known as Pillalamari. Initially, it became known as Palamuru. The town became known as Palamuru. So it's like this. There is another big, huge tree that is there in Andhra Pradesh at some other place, and one tree is there in Howrah also. That is big, huge banyan tree which spread long distance. So that is the nature of a banyan tree, which is very gigantic, which can spread across, just like our journey in the material world will continue on. So this is how the banyan tree is being described in this chapter. So Hare Krishna, any queries based on this second verse?
Dear devotees, you can either raise your hand or you can put it in the chat box. If you raise your hand, then I can unmute you.
Prabhuji?
Yes, Pavaneshwar Prabhu.
Till what time we are continuing our class?
Prabhu, we are going to do it over sessions, right? You said.
Yes, over sessions. But today
So
I'm asking, in generally, your class goes until what time?
Prabhu, so now it is 8:50 almost here, and at 9 o'clock we have a class on Facebook by His Grace Mukundatta Prabhu from Vrindavan.
Okay.
So maybe 5-6 minutes more, Prabhu, and then
so
we can have this.
So because of that, I will not take up the next 2 verses, because they will take up some time. They need some discussion. So I would like to ask, open for question answers. Now devotees can ask directly also. So please, we have 10 minutes more, so we can have some discussion if you have some queries in relation to the explanations of these 2 verses.
Okay. So dear devotees, I have you can unmute yourselves now. I have so you can directly unmute and ask. Please go ahead. Thank you, Pavaneshwar Prabhu, and please complete this Purushottam Yoga chapter 15 for all of us during this Purushottam Mass. So please go ahead, dear devotees. Anybody has any question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Is Santosh Chaitanya Das. Prabhu, you are on Pavaneshwar Prabhu, you are on mute, Prabhu.
Okay.
You are again on mute. I think somebody else is muting you.
Now I am unmuted. Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay. Thanks for your nice explanation, Prabhu. Prabhu, I would like to understand the position of Narkas in this tree, because Narkas also seems like branches, and they will also have leaves, and they will also have leaves. So how the leaves, just how do we justify the leaves in Narkas? Because leaves are the fruitive activities, and Narkas are just for punishments and all.
Of course. See, Karmanu Bandhini is there only in Manushya Loka, as Lord Krishna describes here. So, though Lord Krishna describing this tree in general in relation to 14 planetary systems, but specifically we have to see that in terms of our position. specifically these instructions are meant for human beings, for all of us. So every detail we have to see with respect to our place. So may not be the fruits and the flowers of Narakaloka branches are misery only. Not necessarily the fruits and leaves are fruits and flowers are always sweet or beautiful to look at. There are some flowers are poisonous, some fruits are bitter. So they are like the miserable fruits that are experienced by the people in the Narakaloka. So in that way it can be seen.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
How
Krishna,
to
Prabhuji.
cut the bondage of karma in this life, Prabhuji?
Thank you for asking this question. That is the subject matter of the next three verses, verse number 3, 4, 5. It is all about how to cut the bondage of this karma.
Okay,
So that we
Prabhuji.
will discuss next week when we meet.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question. See, like this tree which was shown, like, the downward, which is a reflection, is the material, right?
Hmm.
Then the portion of above, the real tree, is the spiritual realm. Is it how we should understand?
Prabhupada writes it like that. That's why this image is chosen to display in our BPT book.
Mhm.
So Lord Krishna does not give any hint like that. So the spiritual world is also compared to a tree like that. There is no hint. We don't have to see it like that. But many times we hear that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world.
Yeah,
In order
Parvata
to
reflection,
explain the
right.
spiritual variety, just because there is variety in the spiritual world, we also have material variety in the material world. In order to explain some of the key points of our philosophy, it is described like that. But not necessarily every time we have to say that material world is a reflection of the spiritual world.
Mhm.
Spiritual world is, if we extend the analogy, the material tree is temporary, but the spiritual tree is eternal. The material tree is having secondary roots which are binding. The spiritual tree has no secondary roots, it has no bondage. The material tree needs water to grow. All our material existence depends upon our activities in the three modes. But in the spiritual world, there is no such kind of thing as known as growth or sustenance. Because in the spiritual world, everyone by nature is full of Sachidananda. There is
Right.
nothing called as growth or maintenance, etc. etc. So many other factors are not one-to-one correlatable. So many times we don't have to compare the spiritual world to the virginal tree and material world to be reflection, not necessarily that is required. Only in order to explain few concepts, the comparison can be seen. So in that way.
Okay.
So from my little understanding, Lord Krishna only compare the material world with a tree, not the spiritual world.
Not spiritual. Okay.
Not spiritual world.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Good to hear you after 2 years, Prabhu. I
Hare
listened to your
Krishna.
previous lecture in Atlanta. So,
Yes, I could recognize you. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
so Prabhu, one question, Prabhu. So, if you don't have any bhakti and people are not in Krishna consciousness and they just be in the mode of goodness, they do like charity and everything. So they'll be in this tree itself, like going from one branch to another branch,
Yes.
and so they don't cross this universe, like go into spiritual planet.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. So only the Krishna consciousness and being in the Bhakti Yoga, it's only means of cutting down.
Yes. The means of cutting down is mainly bhakti, and subsidiarily jnana and yoga mixed with bhakti. Jnana yoga and nishkama karma yoga mixed with bhakti. They also work upon living in it to some extent, but primarily bhakti is the easiest process for us to cut down this tree and go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the subject matter of the next three verses, and that is the subject matter of the last 5 verses. We will discuss when we discuss those verses.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear Pavaneshwar
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for such a beautiful presentation of this very difficult tattva. And this is something we need to hear again and again, because it is very, very essential how to look at this material world. Lord Krishna is giving such a beautiful explanation. You explained it so nicely, Prabhu. So we look forward to your next session. I will discuss with you when we can have the next session. Next
Prabhu.
weekend and the weekend after that, Vishwarup Prabhu is giving us online yatra of Barsana and Nandagaon. So it is. So we'll have to change the timing a little bit, but maybe we can do it our evening, like that. So I will be in touch with you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
And thank you so much again, Pavaneshwar Prabhu. Very grateful to you for your association. And dear devotees, please unmute and let us thank Pavaneshwar Prabhu from the bottom of our hearts for his very valuable time. His Grace Pavaneshwar Prabhu ki
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Thank you very much, Pavaneshwar
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for each one of you. I'm very happy to meet once again all of you and Saru in a small way.
Hari Hari. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna.
Hare
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Such a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Pavaneshwar Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.